I was sent this story last week, and this is one of the reasons why I do not believe that we should be getting married this young. You have so much room to grow, and you will grow through your college years and finding yourself early in your career. This is an essay. She says, I got married at 18 to my boyfriend of 6 months to help pay for college. It was the worst decision I ever made. The fact that her parents were okay with this, and obviously, at 18, your judgment is not amazing. Her parents or some adult that loves her in her life should have put the brakes on this one. The talking points: I married my boyfriend because he said he'd help me pay for college. Second bullet point: I was trapped in the marriage for years, often submitting to his every demand. Third bullet point: I eventually left and I'm starting to build my life again. She says, I was married at 18 for financial stability. I had just finished my first semester as a full time college student while working full time hours. I had no time to go to the gym or hang out with friends. I was also struggling to pay for my next semester's tuition. Because of my parents' income, ironic because they worked blue collar jobs, I hadn't qualified for financial aid and was forced to borrow a small loan from my grandpa to cover the first semester. I dreaded the possibility of having to ask my grandpa for the same loan I had just paid back. My boyfriend and I had been dating for 3 months at the time when he initially suggested the idea: why don't we get married? He proposed that I focus on school and he would work full time to support us. Plus, being married could qualify me for financial aid. It wasn't the proposal I'd hoped for, but it made sense. My dad also thought it was a great idea, so it was decided. We bought rings within our budget, applied for a marriage license, and were married in a courthouse after 6 months of dating. No one asked me if I was in love or if this is what I really wanted. It just made sense financially. My college experience was different as a wife. Initially, being a wife at 18 felt like an accomplishment. It felt like I had met a goal others could only dream of. It felt like I had somehow become wiser now that I was married. I could use words like husband in my marriage while proudly displaying my ring. The novelty wore off quickly, however, and I began to feel like an outsider among my peers. Due to my wifely obligations, invitations to parties naturally became scarce throughout college. I had to keep house and work part time as a caregiver to help pay bills. My husband also expected me to be home by a certain time. My college experience was unlike that of my peers, leaving me to feel isolated while in college. When you have a setup that you are financially dependent on somebody, as a woman, that puts you in a childlike position where he is basically your head, the head of household. And that is one of the things that these men act like they want to be. They want to have this submissive and malleable wife. That's the reason why they aim for women like this that are 18, where they talk about these 18-year-olds, these 20-year-olds, the women who don't have a college education. They want to get them in these positions where they have to jump through hoops and they can't do the fun things that you're doing in college. Eventually, my family also encouraged me to stop studying literature, which had been my goal, and instead pursue nursing because it was the right decision financially. I started to see the cracks in our marriage. At no point was the gravity of marrying so young explained to me. I thought I was being responsible. As an 18-year-old kid, I had no notion of permanence, an idea suggested by an older boy and encouraged by my dad, so someone I consider a god, had resulted in the complete loss of my autonomy. Ironically, the field I was encouraged to pursue by both my dad and husband, nursing, relies heavily on self reliance and autonomy. After I became a nurse, the sense of self I had lost during the first 6 years of my marriage began to flourish. The practice of being a nurse translated into my personal life in the form of defiance. I no longer let my husband handle all the money. I didn't let him stop me from hanging out with nurse friends after work. I also didn't let him make every financial decision for our future based on his obsession with money. I voiced my opinions on where money should go and began pursuing my passions. I finally decided to leave. Wanting more freedom, I suggested travel nursing. I told my husband it would help save us money for a house and pay off debts, but secretly, it was a way for me to gain some independence. At the mention of anything financially beneficial, my husband was for it. We eventually bought our first house together in a state 2,000 miles away. I hoped beyond logic that my travel nursing and our new home could bring us closer. I hoped we would find happiness together, but nothing changed. The decision to leave was not a sudden one. Did I try to make it work? Yes. I suggested couples counseling, but he said no. I tried to make a life that I would be proud of, one where I followed my passions and was encouraged to strive for more than the consistency of a 9 to 5 job. Did I receive that? No. Instead, my husband recognized my growing independence and tried to bring me down. I was done. I had enough of this contract with hidden terms. My decision to leave terrified me beyond belief, but I knew I would regret it if I didn't do it. I just wanted to have a life on my own terms. May marks 2 years since we separated, and while I'm still sad about the split, I know it was best for the both of us. Each of us has come into our own on our own terms separately. Growth still happens no matter how hard we try to hold on to the hurt. The wound heals. Okay, so as I read this, she didn't mention kids. So that's a good thing because that means that she was able to gain that independence. She was able to gain that financial freedom and still be able to rebuild her life. Since she was married so young, that means that she's still young enough to rebuild and not have such a huge financial cost come with the separation and the divorce and all of that. When we are living with our parents, we don't have the opportunity to voice our opinions, live the lives that we want. When you go off to college, that's when you can truly find yourself. And you're doing that as you are learning more things, as you're interacting with people that you might not have interacted with, going to parties, having fun, letting your hair down a little bit. But if your college experience is stunted because you're now married and basically lorded over by your husband, then you don't get to experience all of that growth. And she noticed that. So I'm glad that she was able to find herself through the financial freedom that came along with nursing. And she was able to stand up for herself. Now, this is one of the things that I talk about as far as I don't think we should get married before 25. Some people say 30s or whatnot. You grow so much, you change so much from the time that you leave your parents' home through college, through your first jobs, getting to know yourself, dating some. As you date, you're able to see the kind of things that you want in a relationship, the types of things that you want in a partner, your boundaries, how to speak up for yourself, the things that you like, your taste, all of that. You don't get that if you're going straight from your parents' house into marriage. You don't have the opportunity to grow, learn, explore, learn yourself, and all of that. So I thought that this was a really good essay, and I'm glad that she put this out there. I would like to know your thoughts. Are you married? Did you ever want to get married this early? Me personally, you really don't have to say me personally. I went to college straight out of my mama's house. I moved hundreds of miles away, so it was a growing experience, and it was fun moving to a different state and learning and exploring. And that's something that I wouldn't change for anything. So I was able to do all of that. But I want to hear your stories. Chime in. Let me know what your thoughts are. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.